Hi guys, I'm back with another tutorial. It's fall and it's time to print some leaves. I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful leaf prints on paper and on fabric. Aren't these just gorgeous? This is so simple, you're not going to believe it. So if you want to find out how to do this, just grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea and put your feet up, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, we're going to need a few things, and it's not much. You're going to need a Big Shot or any die cutting machine. I happen to have the Big Shot. Some leaves, lots of leaves. Paper. I use printer paper, but you can use watercolor paper or thicker papers. I just stuck to printer paper because the other papers made my journals way too thick. But if I'm making tags, then I use the thicker stuff. A rag in case it gets messy. And I think that's it. And of course, fabric when we get to that section. So, disclosure, I first saw this technique on Saacibo's YouTube channel last year. And last year when I saw it there, of course, I had to try it out right away. And I went crazy. I made so many papers, and then later I had to try printing on fabric, which works fantastic. So much so that I had to ask Santa for the big A4 Big Shot. The Big Shot Plus or whatever it's called. Don't ask me. But it's the big one, so I could make bigger fabrics. But I'm going to be showing you on a normal Big Shot because I think that's what most people will have. So, let's move some of this out of the way, and then I can explain a few things. When I first started, I went crazy and just gathered all kinds of leaves and tried them all. Unfortunately, not all leaves work, or flowers. Flowers tend to make a real big mess. Hortensia leaves, like here, I have brought some from my hortensia. They're too thick, they're too juicy, they just make a smearing mess. So I don't recommend. You will discover if you start to do this by touching the leaves. If they're thick and gooey, and gummy or rubbery, don't bother. You can try it, but make sure you have the rag close by because you're going to have a mess to clean up. The same with the hortensias. They do make a print, but it's kind of messy. Let me see. I have it here. Here. Excuse me. It's all the flowers. See, this is the print I got from the hortensias. As you can see, the juices just smeared out. But you can still use this. I have taken dyes and fussy cut these out with flower dyes, or you spray some coffee on it. It's not that it's a fail, it's just not a crisp print. If you like that, try the flowers. Okay, so as I was saying, when I started, I printed everything, and I just went through tons of paper and a lot of oohs and ahs. Then I got smart, and I started taking leaves, and I have a piece of printer paper, and I folded it, and I printed the leaf and wrote the name on, so I would know if it worked or if it didn't. And if it worked, then I would print it on. I would print it on a little piece of fabric. This is just the natural, inexpensive cotton from IKEA. I think it's a Nestle, or yeah, I think you guys call it Nestle. We call it by IKEA, in IKEA. I will try to put the names of the leaves I used. I know them in German, but I'm not sure what. I have to look up what they're all called in English. This one, I believe, is the Chinese fringe flower. It's a great bush I have in my garden. And then here we have a hazelnut tree. And this one, in English it's in German it's a Weisser Hartreigel. In English it's a Cornus, Alba, Elegantissima. Don't ask me if I said that right. It's this leaf. It makes a lovely print. The other one I have here is called, it's funny, in German it's called Blasenspieren, and in English it's called NineBark. I find that hilarious. Let me see here. It's this one. And then we have, of course, good old-fashioned Japanese maple tree. I won't tell you what I think this looks like. And what else do we have? And then we have a lot of, I tried different ferns. So I have different kinds in my garden, and surprisingly, they make different prints. So, as I said, go to your garden or go for a walk in the woods and gather up some leaves. Okay, let's get started. Here we go. Okay. With your die cutting machine, you're going to have your main plate and your 2 die cutting plates. That's all I use, but often I will take some pieces of cardstock or a few book pages and put it underneath to give it a little more pressure. My die cutting machine, my Big Shot, is really old, and I think it doesn't press really hard enough sometimes. But you will see when you press your leaves, if you're not getting a good imprint, then put some paper, some book pages or anything underneath it for a little more, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but I think you know what I mean. So let's I take a piece of paper, I fold it in half because that will, the Big Shot is set up for A5, half a page, and let's try a leaf. Okay, let's go with a fern. Ferns are always good. I just lay it in here. I always place the backside down here. That's going to give you your best print. And you're going to get like a mirrored image on the other side. If you do have, oops, sorry for the arm, overhanging leaves like this, cut them off. You don't want them in your, because it'll get caught up in your machine. Oops, now I just pulled that off. Let's do this again. Lay this here, and voila. Put the other acrylic plate on top. Line them up nicely. And rock and roll. Oh, I hope this doesn't shake the camera. And I go back and I come back towards me. And you can already see, oops, you can already see the print coming through. And da-da. Now I will, oops, move this out of the way for a second. And now I could just peel this off. Some leaves you can use a second time. Ferns aren't one of them. Oh, and when there's little flicks that when it dries, and now you can see there, this is still, I can feel it, it's wet. I don't know if you can see it, but when it dries, it's even lovely. There is our first print. And it's funny, this time, this fern printed green. Sometimes I get them with the brown spurs, like on this leaf, will come through. That may happen. Let me show you some more. See, wasn't that super easy? I find this is a super easy technique, but you need a Big Shot. Now let's try, I love these. This is the Chinese Fringe flower. We'll put it down, and to save a little thing, I will also place one of these, the NineBark. When the leaves have stems, I tend to trim it off because they're thick and they make that mush effect, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Okay, I'll place that one there, and I will take one of these. So that you can see a couple at once, and then place half on top. If you have the large big shot, or you only want to do half of a page, you don't want the mirrored image, then cut your papers in half. But you always have to put a piece of paper on top. Then what I will do is I will reuse that paper over and over, like a much page, a blotter, and then you only have the one side print. But since I use these a lot in journals, a double-sided page, it works great for me. And now I put my top on top and rock and roll and back. And you can already see the leaves are, look at that, isn't that cool? The leaves are a little forced, what's forced in English? A little damp, oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind, are a little damp, because we've had so much rain, but I was hoping that they'd be perfect. As you can see, isn't that cool? You have the, that's the underside and that's the top side. It's that leaf, and let me show you a couple more, since they're my favorites. Okay. These are fantastic. And then these ones from the vine across the street. I'm going to put it in like this. Place the next one. And here we go. Okay, this looks like it might need a, oh, might come out, and voila. Oh, isn't that cool? Love it. These are my favorite. This, what is this called? Let me see, what does my list say? Oh, I'm not even, okay, we call it I'm not even going to pronounce the Latin name, but I think in English you call it a Boston ivy or a Japanese creeper. They grow all on the back wall in our garden, and now in fall they turn beautiful colors. And this is some kind of vine I pick. I'm going to see if I can get the name. I forgot to check the name on this one. It's from the Spielplatz. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting all my English words. From the playground across the street, and the fence is covered with this vine, and it makes the coolest print. At least I think so. Let's see which other leaves are interesting. Here, I'll put one last time. So that I don't bore you. Because I know you want to go outside and start gathering leaves and print your own pages. Let's see. As you see, I snip off. I like to do little layouts of the leaves, like a little composition, let's say. Let's see, what else do I have here in my, let's see if this walnut one will print. Certain leaves, it depends on the time of the year, can be finicky. Some print better in spring and some print better in fall. It's always an experiment. Okay, let's try it here. This is going a little too easy. I'm wondering if I need to put in another shim piece of cardboard or pages underneath to give it more pressure. Let's see if anything came out. Ah, yes, we got it. Okay. Oh, this one is quite light. Oh, this one. These like to really stick to the page. Okay, he's not so pretty today. When these dry, you can brush them off easier. And we have this. These are much lighter, but they're still pretty. As I said, it will depend on the time of the year and what stage the leaves are at. Like you see here, I have this same leaf, and the brown, just because they're brown doesn't mean they won't print. Here, I'll show you. Here's this leaf in green and in brown. Just let me prepare our paper. So here's the same leaf. Oh, let's take off the stems because they just make a mess. Here it is in green and brown. Let's see if I get a different color print from it. Normally I should. And here we go. Oops. And here you see. This was the brown one. This is the green one. And look at the, can you see that in the camera? Isn't that cool? I think it's so cool. It just surprised me every time. So that's basically it for the paper making. And the fabric is not much different, except for we're going to substitute fabric instead of paper, obviously. Oh, before I switch to the fabric, I want to show you also, sometimes you saw how the one leaf stuck to the paper. Or from when you've pressed them, did I toss all of them? They are super flat. You can literally put them in your book and let them dry, and you have pressed flowers. If you let them air dry, they will curl up again. So you have to still put them between a book or if you have a flower press. But since they're so thin from being pressed, especially like this one, it's almost like skin and see-through. They, as you notice, they sometimes stick to the paper, and I will leave it. And then I take some matte medium, clear matte medium, and I glue right on top. So it glues it right to the paper. And you see here, this was an actual leaf, and it's been glued on. I did this last year, and it's not coming off. You see, it's really, but that's a clear matte medium, and that's what I use there. I'm sure probably some other glues would work, but I like the matte mediums because they don't give it a shine or anything else. So that's another option you can do with your leaves. Now that we've done paper, let me show you how to do fabric. It's just as easy. Here, once again, this is the cotton muslin nestle. It's from IKEA. Inexpensive cotton. I have used lovely damasks fabrics, old bed sheets that were damask, and they work wonderful too. But I recommend a cotton fabric. And since I have tons of this seems to work fantastic. Okay, for these, I will place what I call like a blotter page on the top and the bottom, just to absorb any juices or extra. So so it doesn't mess up my whole machine. And also it helps prevent, see how this is, my plates are marked up, so these marks don't imprint into the fabric, which they sometimes will do. So I place my paper down. Well, first I have my plate, of course, my paper, my piece of fabric, which I have cut to the width of this, to the big shot, and that it is just under 6 inches wide. You can use wider, but I'd have to show you there's a folding technique. But first we'll do this. And then you take your just same procedure as before. I will place some leaves. You can technically place the fabric. Oh, here, that's what we'll do. We'll do a mirrored image. So I don't have to use paper. Here, I'm going to place some leaves. What leaves do we wish to place here? Let me grab some here. There, and let's take one of my favorite, one of these. Since he's too big, I'm going to trim him down. And there. And now, if you want your whole piece of fabric to have different leaves all the way down, see here, the whole length, then you would place the piece of paper and then the acrylic plate on top and rock and roll. But since I'm going to now do, I don't mind both ends having the same leaf. These, but this will have the lighter version on them. Now I'm going to place that there. It'll have the top, as you saw from the paper ones. They're not as intense, the prints. And now rock and roll again. We go there, and we come back. And da-da-da-da-da-da. And there we go. There's from that end, and here's the other end. Now I'm going to pull these off. And you see, isn't that cool? Now, of course, I would fill the rest of this in. See, and then this is like a bonus. This was the paper I put underneath. Now you can either save it. I don't know if you can see it here. Even in the paper, in this paper, you can see, I don't think it will show up. You can see the lines from the fabric, like linen. And sometimes when these leaves are pressed, they take on the linen from the threads from the fabric. It's really cool. And for some reason, I don't know why, and maybe someone does know, by pressing it, doing this technique, it seems to improve the fabric. It gets like a nice, denser, nicer texture to it. Not so cheap. Okay, so either I can save this, or I'm going to leave it here and use it. Well, actually, that's a nice one. I'll use a fresh one. And then I will keep using it as a blotter, and it's great for fodder or whatever. So now I will move my fabric along a little bit, and I'm going to want to put some more leaves here. What do I wish to put here? Let's see. Let's try some of these. Cover up where I didn't put in enough. Oh, I don't know if you will press. Let's see what we get from this leaf. And we'll just put a couple of these in. And where's my funny Japanese maples? Put some of this here. And, oh, we'll put this little one here. Okay. And now, since my fabric doesn't have much space, I will fill it in with just one layer leaves instead of folding it like I did in the first time. And now I'm going to need a blotter. Well, I guess I'm going to have to use, you got my first paper. I'm going to put a piece of paper down, and then I'm going to, so it'll absorb the extra, and I'm going to now insert this into the Big Shot. Now you have to make sure that this fabric is out of the way, so it doesn't get caught under the rollers, because it will rip it. And see, this fabric, there it goes. And then I roll. Oops. And I roll back. There you go. Now comes always the best part. Did something transfer? Ooh. And there that's what we got this time. Isn't that just really cool? Oh, please tell me you're just as, I find this as cool as I do. Or am I just like a nerd? Okay, since I'm almost done, I'm going to put a few more leaves here. Let's try the brown one. But we'll cut it, because since it's so big. Put just one here. And, oh, my favorite, where's my red ones? And let's see if I have a smaller one. Oh, these leaves, it's amazing. Here we go. And let's try this one. And we just put our blotter down. And the plate. And feed this whole thing through so it doesn't get caught up in the rollers. This I would trim. We don't want to get caught in the machine. And rock and roll. Okay. Ta-da! These leaves. There's my blotter paper. And here's, oops, and the bottom one. And here's our cool fabric. You can always add more leaves on top if you want it a little closer together. This has a piece of leaf still on it. Once it dries, you can brush it off. Isn't that just cool? I love it. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically all it is. I want to also show you if you wanted to make the fabric bigger. Because if you have the bigger die cutting machines, you can just make it this size. Like the Big Shot Plus is an A4 size, like I guess American letter size, and then you can get a bigger piece. But as I said, most people have the normal size of Big Shot, and I wanted larger pieces of fabric. These long, thin strips are great for journal covers, for maybe pages inside, for on tags. You can do really cool things with them. But if you want to actually sew something, like I had made round rice bags, at least that's what I'm calling them, and I had used, I'll show you, I had used my leaf printed fabric that I quilted. I'll put a link to the, it's a free pattern on my other channel, my sewing channel, because this is my crafting channel. And you see, I used these fabric strips to make this bag. I thought it was a shame just to have them sitting in my drawer because I made so many. But then I needed some that were a little bigger pieces for the larger bags. So I cut the fabric to the size I wanted. Don't get carried away because otherwise it's like fighting a grizzly bear. But you can do it 12 inches, like double the size of the big shot, and then roll it through this way. If that works, or you can, I should actually fold it this way. You can then fold it in half, and then you get a wider piece of fabric, and you place your leaves just like I showed you down. And here you have the option of, let's see. You have the option of, the leaves will then, whatever you place, let's see here. How can I explain this? Okay, you place your leaf on the half, and then you, instead of using the paper, you would use this fabric. And now you're going to get the mirrored image on the other side of the fabric. I put my blotter down. Here, I'll show you. So that's with the fabric folded in half. Make sure the folded fabric is away from the edge, because I have gone too close to the edge and ripped it. And now, oops. It's hard to use this machine without having my hands in the way. Okay. Off. Oops. See, I have to move it and roll it some more. But you see, I'm going to move it up so I don't lose part of that leaf, because it's a lovely leaf. It's a lovely one. Bear with me for a second. Girlfriend asked me why I always do it two ways. Well, this way I make sure I have the juice, pressed all the juice out of the leaves, and I don't have to reach in the back to get the plates to come back to me. Okay, so now you see, when I open it up, I get this, like a mirrored image. And now what I would do, if you don't want this, you don't want this mirrored, you want all kinds of different leaves all over it, then what you have to do is you do the same thing. You have to have it folded in half or thirds. And now I'm going to take a leaf. This is a big boy. Okay, we'll use it. And let's say I'm going to place it here. And instead of putting the fabric down, I will put a blotter so that it doesn't imprint on the fabric. It just imprints on the one side of the fabric. I'm going to turn this around. And that prevents it from coming right through. So then on the other side, I can print a different leaf if I wish. I hope this is making sense. I think once you start doing it, you'll see how, see, no leaf over here because this stopped it and it printed just here. And now I can, now let's say I want a leaf here in the middle, like just here or over here. So what I do, because I want to fill in this gap, what are we going to take? Let's take a fern. Put a fern right there. And then when I once again, you need some kind of a blotter. And then I fold the sides of the fabric inwards, because you don't want them getting caught in the machine. And so it's like that. You see the blotter's in there. Fabric is folded inwards. That way it will not transfer to this, to the outer sides. And roll. And back. Okay. Now I can open it up. Take the blotter off. And the fern is there without it being transferred anywhere else. So this is how you can create. There's a few ways to create a larger piece of fabric. And whether you want mirrored images or different leaves all over. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. I think that I covered everything. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. Oh, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff YouTube asks me to tell you. And until next time, tschüss.